Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're looking at something really interesting today, President Trump's recent executive order. It seems aimed at really boosting deep-sea mining here in the U.S.
Yeah, and our goal for this deep dive is to sort of unpack that. What's the order really trying to do, and what are the potential, knock-on effects, especially for one company that keeps popping up in relation to this?
Right, and we're mainly looking through the lens of a Motley Fool article for this discussion.
Exactly. It gives a pretty good overview.
And what immediately jumped out at me reading it was this core problem the order seems to target: how much the U.S. depends on imports for critical minerals.
That's the crux of it, reliance, especially on countries like China.
It really makes you think about the bigger strategic picture, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The article highlights that back in 2024, the U.S. Geological Survey pointed out just how much we import for, well, a whole range of these critical minerals.
In China's role.
Significant. In 2023, China was the top producer for over half of those minerals. That level of dependence, it can create real vulnerabilities for any country.
Okay, so let's get into the order itself then. According to the article, what's the main objective? What are they trying to achieve?
Fundamentally, it's about speeding up our domestic ability to do everything involved. So finding the minerals on the seabed, figuring out what's there, actually collecting them, and then processing them, the whole chain.
So bringing that entire process home, essentially, or at least under U.S. control.
Pretty much.
And the rationale, the why behind it, seems quite direct based on the article. It's about securing our own supply, right?
Right. Securing supply and also pushing back against potential, let's say, strategic threats or influence from countries like China in this specific area.
So it's both national security and supply chain security.
Exactly. The White House statement, which the article mentions, talks about developing domestic capabilities and strengthening partnerships with allies. It's sort of a two-pronged approach.
To counter China's influence, specifically in seabed minerals.
That's the stated goal, yes. Build our own capacity, work with friends.
Okay. Now, these critical deep seabed minerals, what are we actually talking about here? The article listed a few key ones.
Yeah, we're mainly looking at things like copper, manganese, cobalt, and nickel. And these aren't just, random metals.
Right, they're important.
Very important. They have specific properties that make them vital for a lot of modern tech. Think electric vehicle batteries, huge growth area there.
Sure.
But also crucial components in defense systems and other high-tech applications. Finding good substitutes is often really, really hard. That's why they get the critical label.
Which brings us to this company, the metals company, or TMC. The article seems to put them right in the middle of this. What's their story?
Well, TMC is all about deep-sea mining. Specifically, they're focused on collecting these things called polymetallic nodules from the ocean floor.
Polymetallic nodules. Okay.
And what's interesting for you is that these nodules happen to be packed with exactly those critical minerals we just mentioned: copper, manganese, cobalt, nickel. It's like nature prepackaged battery materials.
Wow. And where are they looking for these? The article mentioned a specific zone.
They have exclusive exploration rights in a vast area called the Clarion-Clipperton Zone. It's in the Pacific international waters, sort of between Hawaii and Mexico.
And the potential there, is it significant?
Potentially huge. TMC estimates that just their contract areas could hold enough material for something like 280 million electric vehicles.
280 million.
Yeah.
That's enormous.
It really is. I mean, think about that. That's roughly the size of the entire U.S. vehicle fleet right now. So you can see this isn't just about one company. It hints at maybe a whole new way of sourcing materials for the future.
That's staggering. The article also mentioned they did a pilot test successfully. That sounds like a big step.
It was. That was back in 2022. They ran a pilot collection system and managed to bring up about 4,500 metric tons of these nodules.
Yeah.
And what was perhaps more important was the rate they achieved. Their prototype collector hit a sustained rate of 86.4 metric tons per hour.
So it showed the technology, their integrated system, could actually work.
Exactly. It demonstrated viability, at least on a pilot scale. They claim they have an integrated system ready to go, essentially.
Seems like they've made real progress on the tech side then. So how do the markets react when this executive order dropped? What happened with TMC's stock?
Well, the reaction was pretty strong. The metals company shares jumped quite significantly right after the announcement.
Okay.
The article makes an interesting comparison, actually. It points out it was similar to how MP Materials stock reacted when Trump focused on rare earth stockpiling earlier, like mid-April 2025.
So there's a pattern. Government focus on specific resources gives these related stocks a boost.
It certainly seems that way. It suggests investors get pretty energized when they see that kind of government backing or a strategic focus on resource independence.
Right. So it looks like good news for TMC on the face of it. But the article also flags some pretty big challenges and risks. We should probably get into those.
Absolutely. This executive order is definitely helpful for them, a tailwind, you could say. But yeah, there are major hurdles still.
Like what? What's the biggest one?
Probably the lack of international agreement, specifically the regulations for deep-sea mining. There's a body, the International Seabed Authority, or ISO.
Right, the UN body.
Exactly. They're responsible for regulating mining in international waters, but they haven't actually finalized the rules for commercial exploitation yet.
And they need to.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Getting those regulations approved is a critical legal step under international law, specifically the Law of the Sea Convention. And this process has been dragging on for years already.
So TMC and others are kind of stuck waiting for the ISA to make a decision.
In essence, yes. You can think of it like everyone wanting to play a new game, but the rulebook isn't finished yet. And the stakes, the potential resources involved are massive, and the environment is, well, the deep ocean. So it's complex. They're in a holding pattern.
And it's not just the rules, right? The article mentioned potential opposition, particularly from China.
That's another really key risk factor. China has already come out against a U.S. proposal, arguing it violates international law.
Okay, so that adds a whole geopolitical dimension.
Definitely. It could easily, worsen existing trade friction and just make operating in those international waters much more complicated for any company, not just TMC.
And then, even if they get past the regulations and the politics, there's still the basic question. Can you actually make money doing this?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Or maybe $1 billion. The article makes that point clearly. Even if TMC gets the green light to start mining commercially, there's absolutely no guarantee it will be profitable. Well, the economics of large-scale deep-sea mining just aren't proven yet. Think about the immense costs involved getting the equipment down there, bringing the nodules up, processing them, transportation. It's incredibly expensive.
And the price you get for the metals matters too, I guess.
Hugely. Metal prices fluctuate all the time, so their financial success will depend heavily on those costs versus the market value of the copper, nickel, cobalt, and manganese they recover. It's a big unknown.
So, okay, wrapping that investment angle up, what's the final word from the Molly Fool article? For someone listening, thinking about maybe investing in TMC, what's the advice?
The article is very cautious. It basically says this is only for investors with a really, really high tolerance for risk.
So highly speculative.
Extremely. Given all the uncertainties we've talked about, the regulations, the international pushback, the fundamental question marks around profitability, it's definitely not a sure bet. Far from it.
Okay, so let's try and summarize what we've covered in this deep dive then. We have President Trump's executive order, which is clearly pushing to develop U.S. deep-sea mining capability to secure critical minerals.
Right, a strategic move driven by concerns about import reliance, especially on China.
And this could potentially be a major benefit for companies like the Metals Company, who are already working on that technology and have exploration rights.
They seem well-positioned if things move forward, yes.
Yeah.
They've done pilot tests. They have the target resources.
But, and it's a big but, there are these significant hurdles. The lack of finalized international regulations from the ISA is a major one.
A huge one. And that's been stuck for years.
Plus potential geopolitical friction, particularly with China, and just the fundamental uncertainty about whether deep-sea mining can actually be a profitable business in the long run.
Exactly. So the order signals national priority, but the path from that signal to actually having a reliable economic supply chain from the deep sea, it's long and full of potential pitfalls.
So as you think about all this, it really highlights that tension, doesn't it? Between a nation's strategic need for resources that power our modern lives and, on the other hand, the environmental questions and the complex international laws governing this huge, unexplored part of our planet.
It's a fascinating intersection. Government policy, advanced technology, global economics, international law, environmental concerns, all meeting miles below the ocean surface.
What does this rush towards deep-sea resources really mean for how we get the materials we need in the future, and what are the trade-offs we're willing to make? That's definitely something to mull over.